From architecture to painting and sculpture, literature to live music and theater, Radio 111 presents Bonnie G. and Brayan Mendoza with The Desert Scene, your connection to culture and entertainment in the desert cities. Here's Bonnie and Brayan.
Hey, welcome to a special episode of The Desert Scene where we talk about underrated artists.
Woohoo!
Oh, this one was... I had fun with this one because for me it was... I just like to appreciate artists that no one talks about enough. That's how I'll define underrated as artists, actors, singers, writers even, that are not appreciated enough and that need to get more work or need to be rewarded more for their work. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
But why don't you start us off, Bonnie, with yours?
Well, some of this was a little harder for me than overrated. And some of them, well, I don't know. Okay, underrated actor. I just really like him, and I think he's gotten some, kudos, but as Jake Gyllenhaal, I just think he's fabulous, like Brokeback Mountain, of course. And I just think he's just a really intense, real actor. And I just, you don't hear as much about him as you do about some other people. And I just really think he's fabulous.
It's funny you bring up Brokeback Mountain, and everyone brings up Heath Ledger. He's right, and Heath Ledger rightfully...
They were both fabulous.
Yeah, fabulous in that movie. But I think that Jake Gyllenhaal really sold a lot of the emotional moments because, for those of you who haven't seen the movie in a while, spoiler alert, his character is the one that passes away. And so when you watch the movie, you cry, and you don't cry because of the jacket being held. You're crying because you're missing the character that Jake Gyllenhaal plays. And I feel also that Jake Gyllenhaal is one of those actors that is very transformative when he's given the chance. Like Nocturnal Animals and Nightcrawler, he plays these really different roles. He's really evil and manipulative in Nightcrawler. So it's like, I can see why he didn't get nominated because it's a type of unpleasant role.
And sometimes that colors the nomination, yeah.
Yeah, and certainly. And I like the fact that with even the Marvel movie he was in, Spider-Man Far From Home, where he played a character named Mysterio, who's like this illusionist, I like the fact that he brought a certain, not only humor, but seriousness to the role, because you could just easily laugh at the fact that you're playing a character with a fish bowl on their head.
Could you be very superficial?
Yeah. Very superficial, but also you can laugh at it.
Yeah.
But he makes you laugh with it, if anything.
And so he's one of those actors, I think, who doesn't always play himself. And some kind of do, but he doesn't.
And I certainly think that we tend to praise actors with so much that we sometimes forget they do play themselves. Like Katharine Hepburn plays herself a lot in movies.
Pretty much, yeah.
But we always talk about how great she is. But someone like Jake Gyllenhaal, he really hides himself to the point
disappears into the role. Yeah.
And I think that's the sad thing is I've seen a lot of actors who, they transform so much that people forget about them. Like you go see Nightcrawler and you forget that that's him. So you sometimes fail to acknowledge that. And also the fact that he is a very attractive actor that's not afraid to get ugly or to put himself in places that attractive actors don't put themselves in.
Because when Brokeback Mountain came out, that was huge. That was a big sort of taboo breaker. I mean, at the time, that was considered very kind of almost scandalous that they were having this movie about these two, gay cowboys, and people were like, wow. So that was a risk on both of their parts, for Heath Ledger and for them to take at the time.
And it's funny thing you said risk, because Jake Gyllenhaal's career could have easily been destroyed by that movie.
From after that, yeah.
And I'm so glad that history has shown Brokeback Mountain to be, at this point, like a classic of romantic cinema, because it is a beautiful movie, and it's about to be 20 years in about 3 years.
Broke some barriers, and I think which was good. It's a good thing.
And I think in hindsight, Brokeback Mountain is still an underrated movie in my opinion.
Very well done.
Because it didn't win Best Picture, but I think that when I was looking back at it, I'm like, this movie should have swept the Oscars like Titanic did. Like, they were both romantic movies that were just beautiful. But I wanted to also get into my own
please do.
Underrated actor. Willem Dafoe.
Oh, he's fabulous. Yes.
You know, Willem Dafoe, he's famous for playing like the Green Goblin. He's famous for playing Jesus Christ in The Last Temptation of Christ. You know, I think the reason why he doesn't get a lot of acknowledgement for his depiction of Jesus is because, I don't know if you remember, like, the controversy that movie had.
Yes.
To the point that even a theater was bombed. Mm-hmm. Willem Dafoe is one of those actors that he is so charismatic and, again, transformative. He, like, really becomes that part. But I also think that people associate certain roles of him as being really campy because he goes all the way without seeing like the real craft that he puts into it. Like the Green Goblin, like they hear the laugh and they're like, well, that's it. No, certainly not. It's not just that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, do you have a favorite Willem Dafoe part or anything like that?
See, I'm trying to remember. I knew you were going to ask me. I mean, I love him. Can you just throw out a couple other movies he did? My mind's going blank. I know I've seen him in several things. I just can't remember right now.
He played a biker in The Loveless. He was also Sergeant Elias Gordon in Platoon.
Okay, Platoon. Yes, I saw him in that.
You know, the funny thing is people forget he's in Platoon, but he's on the poster. Like that famous like shot that I'm imitating that no one can see. He also played Max Schreck in Shadow of the Vampire, the guy who played Nosferatu.
Okay.
And he got nominated for two Oscars. I think that would be the second one.
Yeah.
And
he's always good in everything he does. Yeah.
So I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he also did a movie called The Fault in Our Stars, where he played an author who's kind of a isolated guy because the main character is kind of upset with him. He's isolated, but at the end, he kind of turns out to be a pretty cool guy. Okay. So I was going to say, what's your next on your list?
Well, actress, underrated. I just adore her. And same thing. It's not that she doesn't is Jessica Lange. I mean, I think Jessica Lange is, Frances. If you've ever seen the movie, did you see Frances?
Yes, I love that movie. She is
great.
My
goodness. And I think it was, I remember that, I think it was the same year, I was surprised, that same year she did Tootsie, and she was nominated for Tootsie, supporting actress. I think she might even win, but I don't think she was nominated for Frances. And I was like, are you crazy? Because she was phenomenal in that, I thought.
You know, the funny thing is, like, I hear a lot about her work recently with American Horror Story. And I think that her work on there is, I think it's great. Don't get me wrong.
But she did so many great movies. Oh my gosh! And the one with where she's the football player's wife with who are the two brothers? The one that was married to Meg Ryan. What is his name?
Oh, I don't remember.
The guy that was married to Meg Ryan. They're divorced now.
No, I'm trying to remember that one.
I can't think of his name right now.
But I also was going to say there's another movie called that she did that everybody kind of forgets that. She won Best Actress for it. Blue Sky. Was that Blue Sky?
Yes. That was the one I was thinking of. Yes.
Oh, perfect. We were similar, but
she was wonderful in that. Wonderful.
And I even think that her performance in Tootsie doesn't get. It won Best Supporting Actress. Just to clarify, with Frances, she was nominated,
but didn't win.
She didn't win. She was nominated.
She should have won, I think.
I think in the case of
amazing.
I think in the case of like Tootsie, she gives such a wonderful performance because it's not trying to
kind of low key.
It's low key. Yeah. And I was telling someone the other day. I was telling my mom when we were talking about the movie Roma and Yalitza Aparicio, who I think is underrated too, but I need to see more. She hasn't been in enough work. I think she's just underutilized. So that's another one for the list. But Yalitza, she didn't scream or do any big dramatic scenes. And so I told my mom, I think it's a stereotype in Hollywood that actresses have to scream their heads off to
cry or sob or die or whatever,
to be nominated. So Jessica Lange to give such a sweet performance, it's wonderful, and I think it's absolutely amazing. And for me, in terms of like underrated actresses on my end, Cicely Tyson.
Oh, yes.
Cicely Tyson. I think it's just simply that she doesn't get mentioned a lot. We mentioned like Marilyn Monroe. We mentioned like Bette Davis, Katharine Hepburn. Last episode we mentioned Mary Tyler Moore. A lot of great actresses, classic actresses. But Cicely Tyson doesn't get the same amount of like respect, or in my opinion, like coverage until recently she died. And it's like,
and then she got all of it. Yeah.
And I even have an autographed copy of her book. So I'm a big fan of Cicely Tyson. I loved her.
Absolutely, I agree.
Roots, and I think I especially loved her in the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, where she plays a slave that gets to live to drink off of White's Only Found.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Beautiful scene.
Mm-hmm.
But what's another underrated artist on your end?
A female singer, and again, I just think partly it's because I think some people aren't familiar with her, is Linda Eder. I mean, Linda
yes.
Eder, to me, I mean, she is, I have a couple of them, but I'm a singer, my vocal idol. If I could sound like Linda Eder, I would just be thrilled to. I mean, she started in the original Broadway show, Jekyll and Hyde. She's a female lead in that, and she's done many albums. And I did see her live at the McCallum a few years back. Just phenomenal. I mean, her instrument. She has this beautiful instrument, but she also. Who were you talking about? One put soul. She puts soul in it. Every song that she does, you feel the emotion. It's not just technically beautiful. And she did the Christmas album I have of hers, CD of hers. She does an arrangement of Silent Night that's a round. It's a choral round, and she has this chord. I mean, it gives me chills. Every Christmas I put that on and crank it up. It's the most beautiful rendition of Silent Night I've ever heard in my life.
You know, I haven't listened to that, but I really admired her work on Jekyll and Hyde because it's one of those things where the musical, first of all, the musical doesn't get enough respect for what it does, especially considering that like Linda Eder has really become, more respected now, but I think if more people know who she is, she'd get as much love as Kristen Chenoweth and various artists like that who are so beloved in the Broadway world that we tend to forget about people like Linda Eder. I was going to say Linda Evans, but Linda Eder is brilliant, and I think she is wonderful. For me, an underrated singer, because I did actually have one, Mama Cass.
She was a good singer. She was
a great singer. I think that in hindsight, like, I always feel really bad about like how her life has sort of became a little bit of a joke because of that horrible rumor, if you know what I mean.
She choked on a chicken sandwich or whatever it was.
Yeah, and the fact that like everyone associates her with just like the mamas and the
being
papas.
heavy and
like the big girl from that group. And it's like, no, she was like, she carried that group. If you took her out, that group is nothing.
No, she really had a very, very good voice. Absolutely. And
for underrated singer, well, I was gonna say male singer, but he's more of like a male artist, Ringo Starr. Everyone mocks Ringo Starr.
Well, he's not he's not the best singer in the world.
Yeah, certainly more of a closer to Bob Dylan than John Lennon.
Oh, but I'd far rather listen to Ringo Starr than Bob Dylan. But he's not. But he cranked out a lot of hits, and I like him. I mean, I just like his. I don't know him, but his persona seems like a really interesting guy. And I also think that his contributions to the Beatles often get underrated because it's like, John Lennon and Paul McCartney, towards the end, there's a reason why those two ultimately split because of the fact that like eventually it became like a two-person group. Competition, yeah. But in the beginning of the band, Ringo Starr, you had to have him. You had to have Ringo. Yeah. Yeah, and Ringo Starr, they always joke that he wasn't even the best for the Beatles, but it's like, no, there's a reason why like most of the great stuff had Ringo in it as opposed to like Pete Best. Well, and he gave, and just his name, I mean, he just added this element to the Beatles that I just think was part of what made them special. Yeah, and also... quite frankly, he's probably like the nicest person in the Beatles. Comes across that way. Yeah, comes across that way. Yeah. Did you have any male singers on? Well, and this was hard for me, and I had to kind of look this up, and I wasn't as familiar with him as I thought. I had to look some stuff. He was from the 50s. His name was Sonny James. Oh yeah. And he did songs like "Running Bear," "I'll Never Find Another You," but he was really good, and you don't hear about him that much. "I'll Never Find Another You" is one of my favorite songs, and that one's actually a really good one. So I'm glad you mentioned that one. I also a couple other ones I had would be Jill Clayburgh, who did An Unmarried Woman. Yes, so I loved her. Yeah. Great movie. That was a great movie. And honestly, looking back, I'm like, why isn't she as famous as Meryl Streep? Like, she deserves that same amount of fame. Well, she passed away, I think, from cancer or something. Oh, yeah. But no, certainly, but like, I feel like... No, I agree. Like, over the years, she should have gotten as much fame. And I would even include other people like Silvia Pinal, who is a Mexican actress that you might not be familiar with. I'm not that familiar with her, no. Yeah, but I think she's underrated and should have come to America. But in terms of actors of color, Anthony Quinn is not... he's famous for Lawrence of Arabia and famous for like
playing like very ethnic roles in movies, and he is like, Latino. He's Mexican, but I love his acting. I think he is such an amazing actor. But he always got stuck playing stereotypes, like Rita Moreno and him.
Oh,
Wonderful,
what a talent! Yeah,
talented actors who got stuck playing ethnic roles, and then finally, Ming-Na Wen.
And tell me what.
She's done the Joy Luck Club.
Okay.
She also did the voice of Mulan.
Okay.
She is one of those people that you don't know her enough, but she should have been a big star in Hollywood because of how talented she is. But
I love doing these. It's fun.
I was gonna say, did you have any more? Or
no, that was it. That's it. That's my list.
We should come up with another one because I feel like I think in a lot of ways there are so many underrated voices and artists out there.
Yeah. We'll do some more of these kinds of shows. They're really fun to just remember all these folks. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Bonnie. We'll see you next time on The Desert Scene.